Welcome to Morning Musings, the show where we take apart the human experience like two mechanics staring into the engine of a pickup truck. And boy, do we understand what it looks like to stare into the engine of a pickup truck.
So I'm Catherine with a
And I'm
POV
Rachel.
Life, and we're life coaches. So, and every week we're exploring why humans do the things we do, from people pleasing and overthinking to boundaries, burnout, relationships, and all the strange little ways we accidentally make life harder than it needs to be.
Yes, we cause our own suffering.
So.
Speaking of causing our own suffering, let's talk about what we were going to visit about today, a very wide topic.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of people ask us how to deal with narcissists. And really, what they're asking is how to deal with narcissistic traits and tendencies in other
Mhm.
people. So, and we're going to get into a little bit why it's not just, we as life coaches don't like to throw the word narcissism around a
Right.
lot. We are not therapists, we are not counselors, and we cannot diagnose anybody. And to actually get someone diagnosed as a narcissist is very difficult.
Well,
So,
first they have to show up to the
that's
process. But
exactly.
I mean, I think that all of us, one of the things in my research, and I was working on this with my mother actually, who is or was a therapist. My dear mom, passed recently.
Yeah.
But she was a therapist for many years, and so she did diagnose people. But we both agreed, and doing the research for a book where I'm still working on, that she helped me with, is that all of us can fall onto a spectrum of narcissistic behavior depending on certain seasons in life, depending
Mhm.
on whether or not we have some really bad coping strategies that we brought with us from our childhood. All of those things can be narcissistic.
Yeah.
And of course, narcissism isn't just doesn't fall into one category. It You can have there are some very famous or infamous killers who were diagnosed as the dark triad, absolutely no empathy, those kinds of things. And those are narcissistic personality disorders. So
Hmm.
we need to be really careful when we're throwing that word at somebody. And I think that probably recognize some of those tendencies within ourselves and also not be afraid of that. It's kind of human nature to be turned inward and
Right.
selfish, and unfortunately, we can really
Yeah.
be negative
Yeah.
when we start letting ourselves have those, just kind of live into those kinds of behaviors.
Yeah.
So, what would you? So basically, what you were saying was we need in life we need to focus on behaviors rather than a
Yes.
label.
That is a huge thing in my coaching that I work with people on is that, okay, let's separate the person from the behavior. And I do have a narcissist. Well, I've had many narcissists in my life, if you want to give them that label. Um, Undiagnosed individuals who ticked all of the boxes. And one of them I still have to deal with on a regular basis. And it makes it a lot easier to deal with those narcissistic behaviors when you do separate the behavior from the person. Because if you don't, then you just end up hating the person, and that's not healthy for anybody.
No, because I agree. Because narcissists, I in no way want to make it seem like we're giving bad behavior a pass. We're not.
No.
But people come into, and let me tell you one of the behaviors, and this is going to make everybody mad, but one of the things that falls right into and almost ticks every box are the people pleasers. One
Yes.
of the things I often say
Yes.
to my clients when they're addicted to people pleasing is that
Yep.
people pleasers can't be trusted. And
Yep,
And I was
I'm a
one of them.
recovering chronic people pleaser.
Me too. And those are some of the most, when I look back on some of my people pleasing, which was not about necessarily always, it's one thing to want to do a good job or want to do something nice for somebody.
Right.
It's another thing to constantly be putting yourself out there in a way that is wearing you down, but you can't stop because you are existing to extrapolate your worth and value from someone else because you don't have the capacity there within
Yes.
yourself to give you that kind of self-love and knowledge and confidence about what you how you show up and what you have to offer.
Right, right.
Those are
I
two different
mean,
things.
right. The thing with somebody who really, really struggles with narcissistic behavior is that they are constantly putting on a mask. They are
Mhm.
one person to one group of people, and then they're another person to another group of people. And people pleasers are natural chameleons. We will be whatever makes you happy.
Yes.
So, it just, I think in some cases we have a little different reason for doing things. So, somebody who is really has a lot of malignant narcissistic tendencies, where
Yes.
it is all about how does it benefit them? How can they use you? And then how can
Yes.
they quickly get rid of you as soon as you're onto their game?
Yes.
Again, very similar in a lot of ways to people pleasing until they get what they want. But then it comes down to they don't really care about keeping the peace. They're just there to get something.
Yes, it go
So
and that's a malignant narcissist or, and those traits include extreme entitlement, little concern, for the emotional impact of their behavior. They just don't really care.
yeah,
They often exploit and they know they are exploiting. They know
yes,
going into it, I'm going to create this relationship so that I can get A or B.
yeah,
Again, to be differentiated between somebody who's honest about that. Hey,
hmm,
I would like to collaborate with you, Kathryn, and create a relationship so that we can come together and work on providing more information in a business
yeah.
sense, or maybe we can market together or whatever. That is not narcissism. That's honest.
That's
It's the
honest
person who
communication.
who utilizes a relationship. For instance, a guy utilizing a relationship and stringing a woman along because he wants the money, he wants the security of the house that she owns, but he also has no intention of really truly committing to the relationship. He's doing whatever he wants to. He just knows that he needs that thing.
Yeah,
That person is his source.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
a need for
and
superiority is another one of them.
yeah,
A needing to feel stronger, smarter, more
yeah.
desirable. And that's a big one that we have to remember, especially with females, more desirable, more important, more powerful than others.
Yes. Women who struggle with narcissistic tendencies, it usually comes from that place of unmet emotional needs.
Yes.
And I find in my experience, they very often tend to be hyper independent in a lot of ways. But then they want to have control. They want everyone to be dependent on them, and they want to have a
Yes.
lot of control there.
Right. These are
And
people who don't let go of their job roles.
yeah,
Um, they won't let somebody see how they do business because they need to be the only person who knows this to keep control of the job. There's a million different levels of this.
yeah, yeah. And if you really want narcissism in all of its different forms broken down, I really look recommend looking up Dr. Ramani on YouTube.
Yes. Yes.
She is fantastic on getting into all of the different forms of narcissism, how it shows up, what it looks like in parents, in siblings, in everyone
In
all around you.
us.
even us.
And us, let's always remember that we are the they
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And
And
I mean,
that's
I don't think that that can be understated. I think that if we are
exactly.
not in ownership of what of the behaviors that we see cropping up in our lives and asking ourselves hard questions about what, okay, yes, I'm gonna go to church today and I'm bringing these 12 dozen cookies or whatever. Um, But is this because you want to do this? I mean, there are times. Look, I mean, my neighbors asked me for some cookies because I make really good cookies, and and they were having an event and they wanted to have some cookies and I was just thrilled to do it and it made me happy to do it.
Right.
There was no expectation. I didn't need their approval. I just really wanted to do this for them.
Yeah.
That's the honest, but I know how to ask myself that question. I'm not
Right.
trying to extrapolate some kind of the feel way to feel about myself through their approval or their praise because my
Yeah.
cookies are great. I already know my cookies are great.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is that whenever I have somebody show up that's like, "Oh, well, that person is such a narcissist." One of my go-to things is usually saying, "Okay, well, we're all narcissists to an extent. We're born a
Mhm.
narcissist. That's how babies get their need met."
Exactly.
But then what really, you know, defines the narcissism? And then honestly, whenever you realize that you have those tendencies yourself, then how do you go about managing that? And then once you learn how to manage that in yourself, it becomes a lot easier to manage it. Well, not even manage it, but cope with it if you have somebody like that in your life. So like you brought up with the cookies and stuff, one of the important things in managing narcissistic traits in yourself is focusing on your personal motivation when
Hmm.
on why you do what you do. Why are you saying
Yes.
yes? Why are you saying no? You know,
Yes.
is it really a good reason? Or,
Yes.
I've seen a lot of parents that will just tend to tell their kids no just because they want their kids to know they're in control. That's not a good
Yes.
reason to say no. Like, no,
Yes.
your kid probably doesn't need to stay out with their friends past 10 p.m. But what's a real reason for telling them no, you
What's
can't do that?
really yes. And or the yes. I think for the parents that that certainly all of us, the yes is even more can be even more laced.
Yes,
Because
exactly.
again, we're saying yes when really does a child need to do this thing? And are we gaining our worth and value because we want our children to love us?
And
Not
that,
setting boundaries
mhm,
because with our children, because it's what would we do if we didn't have this child loving us and
right.
needing us so much? And
And
it
that
infantilizes these children.
Right. And that's something I talk about in my book, Suck It Up Cupcake,
Yes.
which link in the description should be in the description. Anyway, but I talk about in one of the chapters in that how my absolutely chronic people pleasing tendencies whenever I became a bonus mom. I ended up pouring so much time and energy and effort into proving to my bonus kids that I was worthy of love, that I really wanted them to be happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise,
Yes.
and it didn't do anything but leave us all very frustrated. I was overperforming. And then I was resentful because they weren't appreciating anything I did.
Right. Can't they
So,
see how wonderful I am? Why can't they see that? And then we've given
right.
away our power. We've
Yeah.
given away
Yeah.
the power of and responsibility because when we give away the responsibility of how we feel about ourselves, we also give away the power to
Yeah.
change how we feel about
So,
ourselves and own
yeah.
how we feel about ourselves.
So there were lots of nights where I was sitting on the bed, just absolutely miserable inside my head. and thinking, well, I've done all of this work. I've done all of this cooking. I've done this cleaning. I've made these cool things for them. I've done all of this stuff. And they just seem to hate us. Why do they hate us, you know?
Yes.
And, once I started becoming a life coach and understanding more about how things work up here, I started realizing, wow, I really was giving away my happiness to them and expecting them to keep me happy
Well, and they knew that.
unconsciously.
Children know that when, and people, just people know when we're being disingenuous.
Yeah,
So we're not showing up as a genuine person, and people sense it. They oftentimes can't put a finger on it. They just know that you're not showing up in full ownership of how you feel about yourself and letting yourself be seen and not holding them somehow needing something from them back
right,
for these
right.
over performances that we are giving. And of course, when we're talking about this, I cringe. I cringe when I think about some of my old behaviors of chasing that approval. That is, and
Yeah,
and and also how much it made me think about me and how much I was missing about the behaviors of the people around me and what they needed from me, which in
right.
a lot of cases was just pure leadership. So a leader you can't be a leader and a people pleaser. I'm
Yeah,
sorry, it's impossible. There's
no,
no way you can show up and lead your people, and there's no way to show up and lead your family when you are involved in this kind of narcissistic behavior. Again, I'm not diagnosing people. For me, my mom and I created a spectrum, and it's got colors, and
I love
you can
that.
start out at blue and you're really self-actualized and you're not needing things from, personal things that you should supply yourself from other people.
Right.
And then, stress can happen, life can happen, jobs go
Hmm.
away, spouses cheat, things like that happen. And we can find ourselves in the yellow and the orange and the red that bumps up against a vertical line that on the other side of the vertical line is a diagnosis.
Yeah,
Most of us are never going to get diagnosed that way.
right.
We can, like I said, most of us can self-correct, can learn what does and does not work, what is and is not healthy.
Right, right.
But
Like with
um,
the people pleasing, eventually my lowest point, never ever have I ever been called a narcissist. Nobody was going to look at my people pleasing and say, "Oh, she's being a
because it
narcissist."
was very covert.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I didn't even know what was going on. It
Me neither.
just, I was doing what my brain had been trained. It's basically through childhood to do, and that I need to work, I need to earn love. And that's where that was coming from. And then sitting there just absolutely burnt out and
And
wondering why
angry.
nothing, and angry that
Yes.
nothing was working, and going, well, how I need to work harder, but I don't know how. I'm out of energy. I have a new baby. I haven't slept in like 74 days.
Ugh.
And what do I do? And so, and then that's the difference between having narcissistic tendencies and behaviors that you start learning about, pedaling back from, and managing versus an actual narcissist, I think, is probably that line of, okay, this isn't working. What do I need to do differently? And learn how to manage, like learning that, oh, I've actually been saying yes when I meant no. And, um, I've been overextending myself and then expecting them, expecting things from people whenever I never voiced my expectations. So, you start focusing on those motivations again.
Yes.
You start practicing empathy in a different way. So
Yes.
I've always been a very empathetic person,
Yes, me too.
but then being able to step back with curiosity in
Yes.
that moment instead of either beating myself up or defending my ego
Yes.
and saying, okay, I was doing what I was trained to do. That really wasn't right. Um, and so you set your ego aside and say, okay, I know you're going to be hurt, but I'm also not going to beat you up about this. We're learning.
Hmm.
So how can we do better?
Yes.
And that's where you own your mistakes. And then once you own them and voice them, be active about that so that you don't get stuck in that shame spiral
Yes.
of silently trying to fix everything without ever owning your mistakes. You can't do it.
Right.
And then I absolutely went out and sought professional support.
Yeah, a thing that a diagnosed narcissist would not do. So
Yes.
it's interesting, and I love that we talked about narcissism and narcissistic tendencies and behavior before we started trying to help people with that feel like they are dealing with narcissists. Um, so one of the things that I probably want to suggest is that I was called a narcissist. Interestingly, nobody was calling me that when I was people pleasing. When I began when I began to set boundaries about what I was
Yes.
going to allow and not allow in my, if
Yes.
you are a person who is going to continue to lie to me, to break meeting arrangements, to steal, take my money and, things like that. I'm not going to allow access to myself.
Yeah.
And that was when
You get called a
I began
narcissist.
to be called a selfish and a
Yes.
narcissist. And that's difficult because you and I understand what the implications are. We also understand
Yes.
what's really at play. Oftentimes the script is flipped.
And
But
that's something I bring up to a lot of people too, whenever they're like, well, they're such a narcissist. And especially if it's not the first time I've heard it from this particular person, I like to kind of say, really, in my experience, the only people who call people a narcissist
are
are the
narcissists.
narcissist.
Yes.
So, and I started learning that early in my marriage with my husband, who has very good boundaries on a lot of things. And he was getting called mean, ugly things, and narcissist was one of them.
Hmm.
And especially once I started learning about life coaching and becoming a life coach, and doing all of that, I started putting two and two together and realizing, oh, no, if anybody in this relationship has more narcissistic tendencies than the other, it's probably me as the people pleaser who never
Exactly. And
gets
that
called a
and that's the
narcissist.
secret.
And he is the person with the boundaries, and he is actually ticking off the narcissist.
Yes, exactly. And I think that takes a lot of courage and for us to look inward and to recognize, and again, we're not calling ourselves narcissists, but we do recognize what the actual behavior looks like. And especially
Yes.
when you're talking about a covert narcissist.
Yes.
So I think that first, we want to talk about not a covert narcissist. So if you're dealing with somebody who ticks off the other, the malignant narcissist, the open manipulation, using
The
guilt, intimidation, deception, blame shifting,
gaslighting.
triangulate. That's what we just talked about: blame
Yeah.
shifting, triangulation, or selective affection
Yeah.
to influence you and try to control you. If you're talking about a person in your life who's aggressive when challenged on anything,
Yeah.
criticism, if they
Loves
can't.
doing the reactive abuse where they push your
Yes.
buttons until you explode.
Somebody who enjoys humiliation or degradation of others, people who make fun of the way people dress,
Hmm.
people who sit and talk bad about other people for kind of seemingly no reason, or if it's a reason because they feel like that person might be valuable to you.
Yeah.
No accountability, little if any genuine accountability, where they simply say, apologies are often absent or
Hmm.
conditional. It sounds like, well, yes, I did this because you created this environment, and then that's how I reacted.
Yeah.
That is not an apology.
If you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done this sort of
Yes.
thing.
The malignant narcissist is paranoid, and then they're constantly suspicious. They don't mind being deceptive, and
Yep.
they very vociferously manage their image and
Yeah.
what they look like. They control their relationships. They dictate sometimes who somebody sees. They have a striking double standard.
Yeah.
So if this
Yeah.
is it's not okay for you, but this is me. So I
Yes.
can do this. Don't do as my own father
Yeah.
used to say, don't do as I do as I say.
Yeah.
Um,
One of the my favorite quotes from our resident, or not resident, but narcissist that we have to deal in our life was, I don't have to respect you, but you do have to trust me.
yes.
And then whenever we were talking about, you know, same thing back, like you need to we need trust is a two-way street. They're like, no.
Trust is earned.
Yes, trust is
Trust is
earned
earned.
and respect is given. Like basic
Yeah.
human respect is given.
Yes.
And they were like, well, it is for me, but it isn't for you. And it was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah. The
okay.
open and an open disregard for it, and actually kind of almost a challenging way of saying, this is how I believe, this is how it is, and you just have to deal with it.
Yeah.
They enjoy dominance, and they enjoy other people's suffering. So these are so if you've got a person that is ticking these blocks, that truly shows up in these behaviors, I think the first thing is, and let's say it's a parent, or it's a person who you must um, deal with, maybe even
Yeah.
a spouse,
Yeah.
at the time. I
Yeah.
think first focus on the behavior and not the label. You don't need to establish whether someone is a narcissistic personality disorder. You don't know. That doesn't even need to be
You
said.
don't need to. Yeah. And
You
you don't
only
even
have to
need,
decide, is it
yeah.
okay that you're lying to me? Is within yourself? Is it okay that you're lying to me? Is it okay that you're belittling me? Is it okay with me that you're using intimidation? Is it
Yeah.
okay that you're trying to manipulate me? And other repeated boundary violations. And keep your boundaries simple. But to do that, we have to really be in ownership of how we feel about ourselves. So a boundary that you've repeatedly announced, but then you never enforce. So a boundary always, I always say, has to have an if. You have to know that something is not okay. So it has to sound like this. Look, if you lie to me again, I won't be able to continue
Yeah.
doing this project with you. I will
Yeah.
need to go ahead and not and back out of this
Yeah.
arrangement. If it's a friend who continues to lie about, and to me, when you break an appointment over and over and over again with somebody, or you have lunch plans and they
Yeah.
continue to break lunch plans with you,
Um,
that's
um,
a lie.
Something in the co-parenting world, a lot of times is, if you if you start talking about how, if you start demeaning me and my character, if you start calling me names,
Yes.
then I'm going to hang up the phone. If
Yes.
you cannot state time, place, time, day, and place for child custody exchange, then I'm going to hang up the phone and I'm going
Hmm.
to talk to somebody who will get that done. So
Yes.
it's not telling them how to behave and it's not
No, those are
controlling
rules.
them. But yeah, those are rules. But boundaries are saying, okay, if you can't be a civil human being, then I am going to do this,
I always try
and
to say, boundaries determine my behavior.
yes,
Rules are an attempt to try to
control
control your
your
behavior.
behavior.
And
Yes.
of course, they don't work.
Yes, they
And
don't
so
work.
so you have to keep it simple. I won't be able to talk to you if you're having a conversation with somebody who routinely cannot have a conversation with you that maybe even you're in disagreement about, that cannot stop talking over you. A good boundary is, I won't be able to continue this conversation the next time you speak over me, which I've done to
Yeah.
you 3 times today. Um, is
That's a little different. It's Zoom. It's Zoom.
or
We'll
just
blame Zoom.
excitable.
Right.
um,
Well,
is
who's the guy on YouTube? Jefferson Fisher.
yes,
So Jefferson Fisher is a lawyer who gives amazing communication advice on YouTube and
yes,
TikTok, I believe. Definitely look him up for any of that sort of stuff because he does a great job of lining out those if you, then I
yes,
conversations.
yes. If you, then I.
Yeah.
Um, and and we've only got a few more minutes left. But one of the things I want to go through several of like a few more things that we can do. Follow through on your boundaries.
Yeah.
So follow through. It's only a boundary if you do it. So again, I use the example.
Hmm.
I tell people, I don't tell them this, but this is an example. I don't pick up my phone after 9. That's a boundary. And then it only becomes a boundary if I don't pick up my phone after 9.
Yeah.
If I follow through on what I mean.
Yeah.
Don't make every disagreement a courtroom battle.
Yeah.
So if you're dealing with somebody who has these tendencies and you love them, you have to decide what things really matter. And that means that you have to get in and do a lot of work with yourself about making yourself feel better about yourself, making sure that you're in ownership of how you want to feel today and what steps do you
Yeah.
need to take to keep taking care of yourself. Self-care is an important thing if you are a person living with or having a parent or somebody that you have to associate with, a
Yeah.
boss who is a narcissist. Avoid trying to force insight, and that is a big
Yeah.
one. You're not going to get them to agree. You only need to know where you stand on it, and then your boundary has to come
Yeah.
into play.
And that
Uh,
that was something that I feel like you really got forced to practice a lot with your father um in his last year of life.
yes,
And it's you really had to practice a lot of self-care. And then you got really good at you would come in the house and he was always loaded for bear. He was always
yeah,
ready to start a fight. That
he
was what
was.
he
He loved a
lived
good fight.
for. He loved a good fight. And so, and Rachel just learned how to come in the house and, give him some sort of physical touch if she felt up to it, just to let him know, hey, I love you. And she would tell him, "Hey, Dad, how are you doing today? And it's good to see you up." And of course, he could never respond with anything nice, and he would always try to goad her into a fight. And she would just, after a little bit, she'd go, "Well, okay, I can see this isn't going to go anywhere, so I love you, and I'll be back to check on you later." And she'd get up and leave. And he would very often be like, "Well, I don't care if you ever do come back." And but then she would come back that evening and she
Usually
would check on him.
with a shaker full of martinis because he loved a
Yes.
martini, and that
Yeah.
always made him very happy. So
That
goes,
always made him
oh
happy.
yes, some cookies and a martini.
Yes.
I think that it's what you're describing is a surrender, and it's not surrender to being abused.
Mm-mm.
It's simultaneous. It's surrender to who that person is, and not feeling like somehow if I can't change him into the person he should become, that somehow I'm a failure. It's
Right.
surrender to, this is who my father was, who was a very abused child,
Yeah.
and this is who he's going to be. And I love him anyway, but I'm also going to own the responsibility of the boundaries that I have and taking care of self care.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the
So,
thing is if you are living with a narcissist, That is not a good place to be at. You need to have space. You really, really
Yes.
need to have space. But you don't just get to cut people off out of your life, sadly. I mean, some people you can, but then there
Sure.
are some people, like in my situation, where I have a narcissist I have to deal with on a
Absolutely.
semi-regular basis. And then, like in your case, your dad's last year of life, he needed care.
He did.
So,
Yes.
and that's where learning how to deal with those people. And then sometimes they're a coworker, they're a boss, they're who knows. You can't just cut them out. And
No.
and that is where managing your expectations and then
Yes.
your emotions, because
Big words.
big
Managing
words.
your expectations
Yes.
and owning the responsibility of self-care and deciding how you feel about you and deciding how you're going to feel.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Any last thoughts on that, Rachel?
Yes, one of the things that, stops people a lot and makes them really not sure what, within themselves about what's true and what they should do is it's entirely possible to remember that there is a hurting person inside the person who you're struggling with, whether it's
Absolutely.
narcissistic personality disorder or any of those. And they're just involved in some behaviors, even maybe.
Yeah.
But it is also possible to simultaneously say, I know that there's a hurting person inside there, but also you still cannot talk to me or treat me that way.
Yeah.
So I won't be around for somebody to continue to treat me a certain way. You
Yeah.
can love somebody and create boundaries that you owe yourself to keep yourself from getting harmed by a person who's stuck in those behaviors.
Yeah, yeah. And that is important to know, because I think for a lot of us, we do get wrapped up in their backstory, especially if it's our parent or a spouse. We
Yes.
get so wrapped up in their backstory of pain and
Hmm.
suffering and how they have been a victim.
Yes.
And it's okay to understand that, and then also understand that their behavior is no excuse for that,
Right.
or that pain is no excuse for their behavior.
Well,
So
or accidentally trying to make ourselves responsible for their emotional responses, which is
exactly.
that's the loop, that's the trap.
That's the
Yeah.
trap right there. We are not responsible for their happiness or their anger or any of that. That's theirs.
Hmm.
There's nothing we can do about that.
Yes.
And so if they want help, then they should ask for it. And then that is a mutual give and take. And that's what makes
Yes.
relationships beautiful.
Absolutely, it is.
So,
It is.
if you in our audience are needing help learning how to manage your expectations, how to cope with living with somebody with a lot of narcissistic tendencies or anything like that, and not even just cope, but learning how to move on and thrive in your own life, how to deal with this stuff and not let it ruin your entire month, then definitely hit up Rachel and I, because this is what we do. We help people in their specific situations learn how to set boundaries specific to their people, their situations. We help them practice it in a safe space. We help people learn how to take control of what they can and leave the rest to everybody else. So, if you want to talk to Rachel, look her up on mindhikecoach.com, and links will be down in the description of the video. So, definitely look those up and look her up. And then, if you want to talk to me, I am at okidokilife.wordpress.com, and hopefully that'll be moving to just a .com before too long, but and then of course look us up on our socials too. So,
Yes.
all right, any last words before we end the video
No,
here?
it was great to see you. It's such a huge topic, and thank you
It
for
is.
opening it up.
All right, thank you.